The automatic gate opened without hesitation. No special invitation. No last-minute phone call. No tournament director deciding whether she deserved a chance. Alex Eala's name was already on the list, and this time it had earned its place. That single detail tells a much bigger story than most fans realize. Just 16 months earlier, the same player couldn't even enter one of America's biggest tournaments without help. Today, she's walking into one of the strongest WTA 500 fields in Washington on ranking alone. So what changed? How did a teenager ranked outside the world's elite transform into a player the biggest names on tour now prepare for? And perhaps the biggest question of all, is this only the beginning? When Alex Eala arrived at the Miami Open, she wasn't expected to dominate headlines. She was only 19 years old, ranked number 140 in the world, and still searching for a breakthrough. The talent had never been questioned. Coaches knew her name. Tennis insiders knew her potential. But potential doesn't appear on an entry list. Professional tennis is brutally simple. Rankings decide opportunities, and rankings come only from winning. Without enough points, even gifted players spend years fighting just to reach the tournaments where careers can truly change. That was the reality Eala lived every single week. A wild card became her ticket into Miami. It wasn't a reward for results. It was an opportunity based on belief. Someone else opened the door because her ranking couldn't. Washington is different. There is no wild card beside her name. No qualifying draw waiting before the real tournament begins. Her performances have done what invitations never could. They have made her impossible to ignore. And the journey between those two moments has completely reshaped her career. Since that unforgettable week in Miami, Eala has climbed into the world's top 50, reached her first WTA Tour singles final, captured multiple WTA 125 titles, defeated elite opponents on different surfaces, and produced the deepest Grand Slam singles run ever achieved by a Filipina. Then came Wimbledon in 2026. Standing across the net was defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court, one of the biggest stages in tennis. The pressure couldn't have been higher. Yet Eala defeated the defending champion and advanced to the fourth round, leaving London as an established top 40 player and one of the most closely watched young stars on the entire tour. That's why Washington carries a different feeling. She isn't arriving as the unknown teenager hoping one magical tournament changes everything. She's arriving as a player opponents now study before matches. Coaches analyze her patterns. Fans expect to see her playing on the biggest courts instead of wondering whether she'll even make the draw. Miami introduced Alex Eala to the tennis world. Everything that followed proved she belonged there. The difference between a wild card and a direct entry may seem small on paper, but inside professional tennis, it represents two completely different careers. A wild card says, "Here's your chance." A direct entry says, "You've already earned it." Tournament directors no longer have to decide whether Eala deserves a place. Her ranking has already answered that question. For years, she lived in one of the hardest places in professional sports, the gap between promise and proof. Her resume already included the US Open girls singles title. She had developed her game at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. She was widely regarded as one of the brightest talents ever produced by the Philippines. But none of those achievements guaranteed entry into the sport's biggest events. Professional tennis rewards victories, not predictions. Before Miami, Eala was trapped in the cycle so many rising players know all too well. The highest-ranked competitors entered major tournaments automatically, collecting bigger ranking points, larger prize money, and regular opportunities against elite opponents. Everyone below the cutoff faced a different reality. Long flights across continents, days of preparation, then 2 or sometimes 3 qualifying matches before the tournament had truly begun. Win them all, and you finally reach the main draw already carrying physical fatigue and emotional pressure. Lose just once, and your tournament ends before most fans even realize you were there. Eala experienced that frustration firsthand. At Wimbledon in 2024, she battled through 2 qualifying victories and stood only 1 match away from the main draw. Lulu Sun stopped her in the final qualifying round. She had come painfully close. But close doesn't improve your ranking. Only victories do. So she kept traveling. She kept training. She kept entering tournaments where every match carried enormous consequences, knowing there was no guarantee any single week would change her future. Then Miami arrived. Few people expected the player ranked number 140 to become the story of a WTA 1000 event. Most attention centered on the established stars. Eala was expected to gain valuable experience. Instead, she began rewriting the tournament. First came Yelena Ostapenko, a Grand Slam champion known for overwhelming opponents with fearless power. Eala won. One upset can happen. One great day can surprise anyone. But then she defeated another Grand Slam champion, Madison Keys. Suddenly, the conversation changed. This wasn't luck anymore. Something much bigger was unfolding. And waiting next was perhaps the greatest challenge of them all. Iga Swiatek, a multiple-time Grand Slam champion whose movement, consistency, and championship mentality had defined an era. On paper, everything favored Swiatek. On court, Alex Eala refused to play like someone grateful just to share the stage. She defended with remarkable composure. She attacked whenever the opening appeared. She absorbed relentless pressure without abandoning her game. Most importantly, she never allowed the name across the net to dictate her decisions. When the final point landed, Eala had defeated Swiatek in straight sets. In the span of one extraordinary tournament, a 19-year-old wild card from the Philippines had beaten 3 Grand Slam champions and reached the semifinals of a WTA 1000 event. The tennis world finally had no choice but to pay attention. But the biggest prize wasn't the headlines. It was the number beside her name. Her ranking jumped from number 140 to number 75, a rise of 65 places, and she became the first Filipina ever to break into the WTA Top 100. In a single week, everything changed. The invitations were no longer the story. One breakthrough can change a ranking. Proving it wasn't a fluke can change a career. That was the challenge waiting for Alex Eala after Miami. The surprise was gone. Every coach on tour now had footage to study. Opponents understood how her left-handed game disrupted rhythm, how calmly she absorbed power, and how quickly she punished short balls. The element of mystery had disappeared. History isn't always kind to players who explode onto the scene. Tennis has seen countless breakthrough stories end as quickly as they began. One unforgettable tournament, one magical run. Then the rest of the tour catches up. Eala refused to become one of those stories. The months that followed weren't perfect. There were difficult losses, physical challenges. Experienced opponents exposed areas that still needed improvement. Every rising player goes through that phase, and Eala was no exception. The difference was her response. She didn't chase another miracle. She kept building. At Eastbourne, she battled through qualifying and reached the first WTA Tour singles final of her career, becoming the first player from the Philippines to reach a singles final at that level. Soon after, she lifted the WTA 125 title in Guadalajara. Her ranking climbed again. Then another milestone arrived as she became the first Filipina to break into the world's top 50. Little by little, Miami stopped looking like an extraordinary week and started looking like the beginning of something much bigger. Then came the 2026 grass court season. Grass rewards courage. Decisions have to be made in fractions of a second. Hesitation is punished immediately. Eala embraced it. She first captured another WTA 125 title in Birmingham, carrying confidence into Berlin, where an even greater test awaited. Across the net stood world number 2 Elena Rybakina, a former Wimbledon champion whose serve has intimidated the best players in the world. Few expected the match to last on Eala's terms. Instead, she won in straight sets. If that result raised eyebrows, what happened next left little room for doubt. One day later, she defeated another top 10 player, Alina Svitolina, to reach the semifinals. These victories carried a different weight from Miami. Back then, many opponents were still discovering who Alex Eala was. Now they knew. They prepared specifically for her game. And she was still beating them. That momentum carried her to Wimbledon, where expectations had changed dramatically. She entered the tournament as a seeded player instead of fighting through qualifying. She cleared the opening round. She survived a demanding second-round battle. Then center court called her name. Waiting on the other side of the net was defending champion Iga Swiatek. The matchup felt familiar, but everything around it had changed. In Miami, Eala had been the fearless underdog with nothing to lose. This time, Swiatek knew exactly what she was facing. The crowd knew. The commentators knew. The entire tennis world understood that the first victory had not been an accident. That made the pressure even heavier. Grand Slam pressure is different. Every point carries more weight. Every mistake echoes louder. Champions force you to earn every inch of the court. Eala never blinked. The opening set became a battle of nerve. She faced set points and found a way through them. Instead of retreating, she stayed aggressive when the match reached its most dangerous moments. That decision changed everything. She defeated Swiatek in straight sets once again, advancing to the fourth round and becoming the first Filipina ever to reach the second week of a Grand Slam singles tournament. In that moment, Washington stopped being just another tournament on the calendar. Her direct entry into the WTA 500 main draw suddenly carried a much deeper meaning. It wasn't simply about avoiding qualifying rounds. It was proof that her ranking had finally caught up with her level. Proof that Miami hadn't defined her career. Proof that consistency, not one spectacular week, had brought her here. Now, Washington presents a completely different kind of challenge. She is no longer fighting for permission to compete. She is competing with expectations. That pressure can be even heavier. Every opponent has studied her game. Every weakness will be tested. Every match begins at 0, no matter how many champions she has already defeated. And that's exactly where the next chapter begins. Because earning a place among the world's best is one achievement. Staying there is the test that defines a career.